I brought a blind girl home. While tidying up her room, a few comments floated across my vision saying, if the supporting character tidies up a bit more by her pillow, he'll see his big underwear. This scheming girl is both pathological and cute. Sebastian would never guess that the heroine isn't blind at all. I was speechless. Sebastian is my name. My hand shook, and the next second, a corner of my big underwear peeked out from under the pillow. Almost instinctively, I pulled it out. It was that faded black pair with a damp spot in the middle, the one I couldn't find a few days ago. I was dumbfounded, and my hand holding the underwear almost let go uncontrollably. At this moment, footsteps came from outside. Victoria was back. I barely had time to react before the door opened from the outside. She said, "Brother, what are you doing?" Victoria stopped at the door, unconsciously making eye contact with me. The comments were still scrolling. I shook the underwear in my hand and asked without hesitation, "Victoria, tell me, why is my underwear under your pillow?" To my surprise, the air was awkward for just a moment before the girl's pale face turned red. She lowered her head in a panic, biting her lip, and said, I'm sorry, brother. When I was collecting clothes earlier, I accidentally took yours into my room and accidentally got it wet. I wanted to wash it clean and return it to you." When she mentioned it, Victoria paused shyly as if she didn't dare to say more. Seeing that I didn't respond for a long time, she seemed anxious, leaning on her cane and groping for my position, murmuring, "Brother, please don't hate me." Such a pure college girl, but the comments exploded saying, "Sister, if you don't succeed, who will? This acting is making me itch." I second that. The world owes the heroine an Oscar. Oh my God, she can get away with this? Her face can indeed be her meal ticket. Protect our heroine, she's so young. Can she lie? I was speechless. The comments and Victoria's actions were about to make me explode. After a while, I could only support Victoria in front of me, forcing a smile and saying, "It's okay, I don't blame you. I'll go make dinner now." I almost fled, throwing the underwear into the laundry basket and locking myself in the kitchen. Who should I believe? Or has Victoria been lying to me all along? While preparing dinner, I observed the comments and roughly pieced together the story. According to the comments, our world is an old-fashioned romance novel. I'm the standard supporting character who breaks up the main couple but actually brings them together, and Victoria is the heroine. Initially, I took in the pretending to be blind Victoria and treated her very badly, even trampling on her feelings. Until Victoria regained her identity, I shamelessly sought her out, asking her to marry me. But by then, she had already fallen for the main character. When she wavered between us, the main character left the country in anger, starting the classic chase the husband plot. I was stunned. What kind of old-fashioned soap opera plot is this? The comments accused me of not being considerate at all. Oh heavens, this is slander, pure slander. How can you expect a 9-to-5 worker to have those thoughts and interests after a long day? Of course, I admit that I initially took her in with some bad intentions, tempted by her beauty. That day it was raining heavily. Victoria, in a wet, thin dress, sat under the eaves with her arms crossed. I originally asked if she needed an umbrella, but her fragile look pierced my heart. Clearly a blind person, but her eyes, wet with rain, were clearer than the rain itself. In a daze, I agreed to all her requests, including taking her in. Later, during the Double 11 shopping festival, I was so busy with work that I had no time to care for her. When I got home, I was exhausted and ordered takeout for dinner. Today, I finally finished the Double 11 overtime and had a rare day off, only to get a big surprise. I've already made up my mind. Victoria, since you're so good at pretending, let's see if you're really blind or not during dinner. I said, "Eat more, Victoria. This is your favorite tomato and egg dish." I picked up a piece of bitter melon and egg and put it in Victoria's bowl, smiling at her. After getting to know her for a few months, I knew she hated bitter melon. Once I accidentally made this dish, and she cried after taking a bite. This time I wanted to see if she would eat it or not. I stared at Victoria closely. She hesitated for a moment, then her face lit up with joy, and she happily picked it up with her chopsticks and put it in her mouth without any hesitation. She said, "Thank you, brother, for thinking of me. I'm so happy." Before she finished speaking, her brows furrowed and she looked at me with teary eyes, saying, "Brother, you tricked me. But if it makes you feel better, I'll eat a few bites of bitter melon." Saying this, she forced several bites of bitter melon into her mouth. Meanwhile, the comments went wild, saying, "Oh my God, the heroine is so pitiful. I remember in the novel she would vomit after eating bitter melon as a child. The supporting character is so bad. Knowing the heroine hates bitter melon and still tricking her. Isn't this abuse?" Wait, something feels off. Is the supporting character really abusing her? Why does it feel so tense? I was sweating. Look at who made me act weird. I glanced at Victoria, who had evolved from teary-eyed to expressionless. This girl has some skills. I swallowed and decided to go big. Thinking this, I stood up, picked up a piece of pork belly with my chopsticks and said, "Victoria, you can't just eat vegetables. Wait, I'll feed you, okay?" Without waiting for a response, I quickly moved the meat towards her eyes. According to a normal person's eye reflex, they would blink when something approaches their eyes, but a blind person wouldn't. But now Victoria sat there with her mouth open, waiting to be fed, not moving at all, not even blinking. My chopsticks were only half an inch away from her eyes. I was completely stunned, and we stayed in this stalemate for a while, until Victoria spoke softly. "Brother, what's wrong? Aren't you feeding me? Did I do something wrong?" Her tone quickly dropped. I snapped out of it and stiffly stuffed a piece of braised pork into her mouth. She smiled with her eyes curved, saying, "Brother, this is the best braised pork I've ever had." I sighed. Now I had lost my appetite. I said, "Then eat more. I'm full. I'll go rest in my room for a while." I put down my chopsticks, didn't look at her, and went upstairs. Sitting in my room, I angrily punched the wall repeatedly. Damn, how can people be so good at pretending? Of course, I didn't ignore the comments. They said, "That was so close. If I had the heroine skills, I'd succeed in everything." What is the supporting character trying to do? I've never found someone so annoying. Do you think the supporting character is testing the heroine? Did he find out she's pretending to be blind? No way, the supporting character never cares about the heroine. What could he find out? Stop arguing, everyone. The heroine is taking a bath. Who understands? So hot. Wait, Victoria is taking a bath? My brain hadn't caught up when a loud crash came from downstairs. Almost instinctively, I rushed downstairs and anxiously opened the bathroom door. I said, "Victoria, are you okay? Do you need?" The rest of my words got stuck in my throat. In front of me, Victoria was sprawled on the floor like a Roman statue, her pale skin tinged with pink, barely covered by a towel. Her abs, mixed with water droplets, were faintly visible. I swallowed, tempted but not daring to look more, turning my head to the side. Victoria groaned and said, "Brother, it hurts. Can you help me? I can't see. I'm scared." As she spoke, her eyes reddened, looking at the door, which was my direction, like a helpless kitten. The comments went wild, saying, "Remember, women act 3 parts drunk to make you cry, but the heroine doesn't even need to drink." Oh my God, did anyone see those 2 big things jiggle? The supporting character can resist this, not jumping on her to do the deed. I obediently walked forward, squatted in front of Victoria and said, "Where does it hurt, Victoria? I'll take you to apply some medicine." Before my hand could touch her arm, her flushed face leaned into my palm, warm and soft. The steamy bathroom seemed to heat up even more, making me dizzy. She said, "Brother, you're so good to me. You know, everyone used to dislike me. Even my name Victoria was because they hated me." As our eyes met, Victoria's eyes filled with a misty hue and glistening tears. My heart skipped a beat. This should have been a heartbreaking moment, but the comments pulled me back to reality. They said, "Oh, why doesn't this Victoria count as the other Victoria? Victoria's father would be furious if he knew. The sister is working hard to seduce, even changing her name. She loves it, even her name is fake." The previous sympathy vanished. I was so angry that my chest felt tight. I slowly shifted my gaze back to Victoria, who seemed still immersed in her emotions. This seemed like a good opportunity. I smiled, my hand on her cheek sliding down, gently and teasingly. In just a few seconds, I pulled her into my arms, making her straddle me. I looked down at her. Her thighs tensed up, hot and tight. Even her voice calling me was hoarse and slightly urgent. She said, "Brother," but I pretended not to hear, still slowly approaching her until our lips were almost touching. At that moment, her breath stopped. Just as I was about to kiss her, I leaned past her face and whispered in her ear, "Victoria, is my clothes as wet as this?" I looked down at the towel covering her. In the corner of my eye, Victoria bit her lip, silent. The comments went crazy, saying, "This is what adult content should be like." Damn, the supporting character suddenly got intense. The heroine's life is in danger. Brother, this bath was in vain. After teasing her, I didn't look at Victoria again and went straight back upstairs. I couldn't help it. It was too stimulating for me. But this time, I confirmed one fact: Victoria wasn't blind. At the moment our lips were about to touch, I caught the moment her pupils contracted. This wasn't a reaction a blind person should have. In other words, the comments were all true. After thinking it over for 2 days, I made a decision. No matter how tempting, I didn't want to be deceived and help count money for others. So on the 3rd day, while Victoria was out, I packed all her things and waited on the sofa. Since that day, Victoria had been trying to find me, but I avoided her. This time, when she entered and sensed my presence, her eyes lit up. She said, "Brother, you're finally willing to see me?" I interrupted her, saying, "Tell me the truth. Do you have anything to hide from me? I'll give you this chance." I stared at her, not giving her a chance to dodge. She asked, "Brother, don't you believe me?" Victoria's expression visibly hurt, her eyes dimming. I sneered, pushing the luggage into her hands, saying, "Fine, no more chances. Leave." That day I didn't care about Victoria's reluctant steps. She was like a kitten abandoned by its owner, pushed out the door by me. Even knowing she was pretending, I still felt a bit of bitterness leaning against the door. Unfortunately, I underestimated Victoria's persistence. For a whole week, I saw Victoria standing silently with her cane outside the company building. Each time, I had to harden my heart and ignore her. Damn, this woman was messing with my mind. I was furious, but I couldn't stop my chaotic thoughts. The weather was getting colder, yet she still wore that thin dress. Couldn't she wear something thicker? And the company entrance was right by an intersection. Wasn't she afraid of getting hit? Oh, right, I forgot she wasn't actually blind. I was speechless. This delicate balance was shattered on a rainy night. After working late, Victoria was no longer at the entrance. I sighed in relief, but then I heard a familiar voice in the alley ahead. I opened my umbrella and quietly walked over. Under the dim light, a few burly men were cursing and holding knives, attacking a figure. As I got closer, I saw it was Victoria. She was curled up on the ground, gasping for breath, her hand covering a bleeding wound. She looked pitiful. She glanced up, and through the crowd, her unfocused eyes met mine. My heart felt like it was stabbed by something sharp and fragile, a dense pain. But I turned and walked away because I saw the comments. They said, "Seeing this, I have to admit the heroine is something else. She even got people to hurt her to win over the supporting character. Who can resist those wounds and eyes? Any man would want to protect her." Damn, why did the supporting character leave? This plot is off the charts. I kept repeating to myself, too much green tea makes my stomach hurt. The wind howled past my ears. Suddenly, a desperate and helpless groan came from behind. Damn it! I cursed and stopped, turning back. I ran over and kicked the leader to the ground. Then I held up my phone, showing the call screen. I said, "I've called the police. Do you still want to stay here?" The men exchanged glances and quickly dropped their knives, fleeing like scared animals. I turned to Victoria, who was still trembling. The umbrella cast a shadow over her head. She instinctively leaned towards me, her eyes flickering. She said, "Brother, is that you? You still care about me, right?" But the next second, a crisp slap echoed. I slapped her face, leaving a faint red mark. Her words stopped. I squatted down, gripping her chin tightly. The umbrella was tossed aside, and through the rain, it felt like our first meeting again. But this time, I stared into her eyes and loudly questioned, "Is it fun? Is playing with me fun? Is risking your life fun?" She froze, her dark eyes unreadable. She bit her lip and said, "Brother, that's not what I meant." I laughed angrily. "Fine." The next moment, I picked up the knife on the ground and slashed at my finger. Everything happened quickly, just a second. Her hand hurriedly pushed mine away, looking at me in shock. She blurted out, "Sebastian." I smiled triumphantly and asked, "Not blind now, are you?" Meeting her stunned gaze, I grabbed her other hand and asked, "Should I call you Victoria or Vicky?" In the noisy rain, time seemed to freeze for a moment. Victoria lowered her head, her curly hair dripping water into the puddle, creating ripples. The sound was like tears falling. After a long time, she looked up with a pleading gaze and said, "I'm sorry, brother. I lied to you. Please don't hate me. I'm begging you." Her hand tugged at my clothes, trembling slightly. The emotions in her eyes hit me unexpectedly. I didn't want to look at her anymore. I stood up and opened the umbrella again. I said, "Let's go." She asked, "Brother, have you forgiven me?" I replied, "Your wound needs dressing." She said, "Brother, I know you still care about me. Don't be mad, okay? I'll do anything you want." I said, "I want you to come with me to get your wound dressed." She replied, "Okay, I'll listen to you." Unnoticed by me, the comments went wild. They said, "Who said this couple is bad? They're great." No one noticed the plot is completely off the charts. How did the supporting character find out the truth so early? This doesn't make sense. Another comment said, "Who cares if it makes sense? As long as it's good." The not blind Victoria started making up for it crazily. She cooked, washed dishes, and cleaned the room like a diligent housemaid. Whenever I asked her what she wanted, she didn't say anything, just stared at me with her fox-like eyes. Her gaze made my heart race, and I had to change the subject. After that day, an ambiguous and dangerous line was drawn between us. She was the heroine, and she had her main character. But facing her eyes full of me, I couldn't say no. I walked carefully on this line, a bit addicted. My emotions were like bubbles in a soda bottle, accumulating with my heartbeat, shaking, gathering at the bottle's mouth. Finally, one night it reached the breaking point. I was supposed to work overtime at the company, but received a sudden power outage notice for the neighborhood. The notice made me uneasy. The inexplicable anxiety made me forget I could check on Victoria through WeChat. I simply applied for early leave from my superior. When I got home, the house was indeed pitch black. I anxiously searched for Victoria. In the quiet space, a faint, chaotic breathing sound came from the door. Victoria's door was open. In the moonlight, that pair of underwear was back in her hand. She bit her lip, and with the movement of her wrist, the sound of water rippled. A heat fermented in the air, making my cheeks burn. Victoria, half hidden in the darkness, noticed my presence but didn't stop. Instead, she turned towards me as if lifting a veil. Her lips curved into a slight smile and she said, "Brother, you're here." I walked step by step to her and said nothing. She buried her head in my neck and said, "Brother, you keep asking me what I want. What can I do? There's only one thing I've ever wanted, Sebastian. I just want you." She lifted her head, her eyes filled with tears, and she laughed self-deprecatingly. "Brother, you still can't stand me like this, can you? If you're angry, hit me, okay?" She faced me, her eyes red at the corners, the moonlight outlining her delicate features like a seductive fairy from a story. Hormones surged within me, and with a bang, it was the sound of bubbles bursting in my chest. In Victoria's dazed gaze, I pressed her against the wall and kissed her. I said, "Victoria, I'm right in front of you. Are you sure you need anything else?" There was a clatter as something fell to the ground. After that, everything seemed to go haywire. In the darkness, kissing turned into a struggle, and hugging became two fires burning together. In the end, everything went off track. I took her breath away, merging into her world. In that moment, I didn't care what kind of heroine Victoria was. She was just the most spontaneous part of my otherwise orderly life. While I wasn't paying attention, the comments went wild, saying, "Why is it still censored even though I'm VIP?" Give us the adult content. My ship is sailing, everyone move aside. After that night, Victoria stopped pretending altogether and clung to me tightly, even wanting a formal relationship. Thinking of the plot from the comments, I felt torn. She hugged me from behind, rubbing against my back, saying, "Brother, am I not presentable?" "No." I paused, turned to her, and asked seriously, "What if we're destined not to be together, Victoria? What if you don't like me anymore once you regain your identity?" The person behind me trembled slightly and hugged me tighter, saying, "That won't happen, brother. No matter what, I won't let go of your hand." Feeling a bit annoyed, I got up, intending to throw the worn-out underwear into the trash. It was beyond repair and couldn't be worn anymore. But Victoria stopped me, raised an eyebrow, and smiled seductively, saying, "If you don't want it, give it to me, okay?" I said, "You're really sentimental." Though I hadn't explicitly acknowledged it, Victoria started acting as my girlfriend, coming to pick me up from work. Even my colleagues knew her and called her my clingy little wife. Every time she heard it, she would be happy for a long time, her smile like a cat's tail that wouldn't lower. Despite this, my heart was still overshadowed by a vague sense of foreboding. That premonition came true one afternoon a month later. That day, Victoria had just accompanied me on a walk. As we reached the downstairs, several black Maybachs surrounded the entrance, and a dozen bodyguards in black suits filed out, forming a line. Before I could react, a cold figure walked over. He said, "Victoria, everything is resolved. Why aren't you coming back?" The man, dressed like a second-generation rich kid, wore luxurious and somewhat flamboyant clothes. Just by looking, I knew we were from two different worlds. Almost instantly, I recognized him as the novel's main character, Ethan. I finally understood Victoria's true identity. The Liu family started in the underworld of Hong Kong and gradually grew into a conglomerate straddling both the legitimate and illegitimate worlds. In recent years, they had relocated and legitimized their operations, shifting their family's focus to the mainland. But at this critical juncture, Victoria's father was assassinated by an enemy. After his death, the family fell into chaos. Victoria was ambushed during this time, but managed to escape by pretending to be blind. As her childhood friend, the male lead secretly helped her deal with the family's internal issues. But Victoria refused to go home, so the main character came to get her himself. As he spoke, the male lead reached out to grab Victoria's arm, but I instinctively blocked him. Sensing my mood, Victoria stepped back behind me, frowned, and said, "Ethan, let's talk this out. Don't pull me around." The man took 2 steps back and said discontentedly, "If those old geezers didn't insist I help you, do you think I'd want to come? They keep asking you to come back and take over the family business. If you don't come back this time, they'll come to get you themselves." Watching their interaction, I felt a moment of confusion. Victoria was silent for a while, then looked at me carefully and said, "Brother, wait for me, okay? I'll be back tonight." She let go of my hand and walked over to him. Watching her back, I felt dazed. Was everything going back on track? I tried to glean something from the comments, but they were as clueless as I was. They said, "First time I've ever not wanted the male lead to appear. Same here, I was really into it." Another comment said, "The heroine really loves the supporting character. No way with the plot like this, how can it be resolved?" That night, Victoria didn't return until 11 p.m. She looked exhausted and didn't notice I was pretending to sleep. She hugged me tightly from behind, as if wanting to merge into my bones, deeply and aggrievedly. I felt her warm tears and heard her light murmur. She said, "Never abandon me, Sebastian. Brother, I'm yours." In the dark, I opened my eyes. Victoria had already fallen asleep but didn't seem to be sleeping well, her brows furrowed. I reached out, wanting to smooth them out. Suddenly she spoke, "No." I froze for a moment and realized she was talking in her sleep. She said, "I won't agree." Her tone this time was a bit pitiful. I felt like laughing, but an inexplicable sense of unease grew stronger in my heart. The next day's comments confirmed my suspicions. They said, "It's over. Insider news, Due to severe plot deviation, the system seems to have activated the plot correction function. My ship is in danger. Chicken and Sebastian don't have a bad ending. I don't want to see the main characters. Someone else said, Sebastian, don't cry, it's the world's fault. I touched my face and realized my eyes were already wet. That night's headline was, Liu family's daughter accompanies Ito family's heir to auction. Victoria didn't come home for the first time. In work, I'm always competitive, and in love, I'm no different. I admit I have feelings for Victoria. She asked me not to abandon her, so I have no reason to give up because of a mere system. I need to ask Victoria face to face whether it's the system or her own choice. But Victoria hadn't come back for a long time, so I had to find a way myself. Since Victoria returned to the Liu family, their stock price soared, making them the darling of the business world. The end-of-month business banquet was her first public appearance. Fortunately, our company was also sending someone to attend and seek cooperation with the Liu family. Ignoring others' looks, I volunteered to go. Since the news of Victoria's return broke, gossip followed, including my taking her in. Now everyone saw me as a gold-digging opportunist. The boss, taking a gamble, still chose me to attend the banquet. At the banquet, under the crystal chandeliers, Victoria appeared surrounded by people. She wore a high-end black dress, her hair up, revealing her beautiful fox-like eyes. I had never seen this side of Victoria, and was momentarily stunned. In front of me, she was always like a kitten waiting for its owner. Now she was reserved and noble, like an elegant black swan, her eyes full of aloof pride. She seemed to notice my intense gaze and looked back. Our eyes met, and I couldn't help but raise my glass and walk towards her. I said, Miss Liu, may I have a word? She smiled coldly and said, sorry, I have a date. Only then did I notice Ethan in a high-end suit not far from her. He smiled and raised his glass to me. Unwilling to give up, I tried to speak, but Victoria interrupted, tucking her hair behind her ear with a disdainful smile. She said, I remember you. You're the man who took me in. What, regretting it now? Just say it. How much do you want? Her voice wasn't loud, but enough to draw mocking glances from around. The comments couldn't take it and said, Sebastian, don't believe it. It's the system's doing. The heroine is mentally slapping herself 1,000 times. Oh heavens, spare my ship. If the heroine wakes up, she'll be shattered. In the corner of my eye, I saw Victoria clenching her hands, nails digging into her palms as if fighting some force. I took a deep breath and, before anyone could react, grabbed Victoria's neck and whispered in her ear, Victoria, you don't want others to know you took my big underwear, do you? Then, in her shocked gaze, I held her head and kissed her. I asked, are you awake now? Victoria's eyes softened and she laughed lightly, saying, brother, you came for me. The clock struck midnight, and amidst the crowd's boos, I wiped her lipstick off her lips, as if marking her as mine. I smiled like a rogue and said, let's elope, Victoria. As soon as I finished, I grabbed her hand and ran out of the banquet hall, hiding in the garden outside. We lay on the lawn, the night romantic. Turning to look at each other, we both laughed. Victoria snuggled into my arms, rubbing her head against my neck, saying, I've wanted to do this for a long time. Run to the end of the world, just you and me. It's much better than this rotten world. Her rubbing tickled me and I laughed, pushing her away, saying, has anyone ever told you you look like a kitten? Suddenly, a furry head was placed in my palm. Victoria lowered her long lashes and said, as long as you don't abandon me, I'll always be your cat, Sebastian. My heart skipped a beat, but the comments brought me back to my senses. I slapped my forehead, sat up, and said seriously, Victoria, tell me honestly, is there a force you can't resist making you do things? Tell me, and we'll figure it out together. Victoria's lips pressed tightly, and she lightly said, yes. Before I could say more, she kissed me, swallowing all my words. She said, it's okay, brother. I have a plan. Her voice was dry, as if she had made a significant decision. Before I could figure out what Victoria's plan was, Ethan found me. The news of Victoria falling out with the Ito family because of me spread after the banquet, so his visit wasn't surprising. But surprisingly, he didn't make things difficult for me. He just pointed at me, angrily accusing, "Because of you, Victoria won't marry me. I have to go abroad." I realized he was just a spoiled rich kid. Though sometimes offensive, he wasn't hateful. I sipped my coffee and asked, "Do you want Victoria to marry you because you like her?" He seemed never to have thought about it, stunned for a moment, then frowned and said, "I don't know. Everyone around says we're destined to marry." He rubbed his temples, hesitantly saying, "I guess I should like her." I shook my head and looked directly at him. Like and love are degrees of feelings. Love, family, and friendship are types of emotions. You might be confused. You might have friendship or affection for Victoria, but that's not why you want to marry her. Love isn't like that. Love is thinking about her when you can't see her, worrying about her, and when you do see her, wanting to be one with her. Ethan's expression became conflicted and he hesitated, unable to speak. I sighed, realizing this might be another system-setting issue. Under the setting, he seemed to become a puppet of the system, just like Victoria. I shifted the topic, trying a different angle. "Okay, let's say she doesn't marry you, and you're heartbroken. Why do you have to go abroad?" He thought for a moment and said, "Because everyone says being rejected by a childhood friend is very humiliating. I feel so ashamed. My friends say being dumped like a dog means I should go abroad, start a business, and make her unable to reach me, becoming her unattainable dream. But I don't want to go abroad at all." As he spoke, Ethan's brows furrowed, as if he was about to burst into tears. With a loud bang, I slammed the table, startling him. "Who says that? You're the eldest son of the Ito family." He looked at me with wide eyes. I cleared my throat. "Who says men have to go abroad when heartbroken? Who says men must achieve greatness? We all have the right to choose our own lives. If you don't want to go abroad, you don't have to. You're the eldest son of the Ito family." The more I spoke, the more excited I became. Ethan's eyes gradually brightened, and he nodded, smiling. "You're right, I don't want to go abroad. I don't know why, but before, going abroad was the only thought I had." Before leaving, he awkwardly gave me a watch, saying, "Sebastian, you don't seem as bad as others say." "Thank you. I need to think about my future and the kind of life I want." He even gave me a thumbs up, and I couldn't help but smile. The comments flooded in, saying, "Both the supporting and main characters are great. It's the system that's bad." This is a great explanation. I was confused before. Why run abroad when heartbroken? It's not like there's no place to stay here. Exactly. And the main character got crippled while starting a business abroad. Seeing the comments, I sighed in relief. This ridiculous soap opera plot changed a crucial point. But who knew that just a week later things would revert? Ethan proposed staying in the country, but his family insisted on sending him abroad. Everything seemed to highlight the irresistible force of the plot. With growing unease, I tried calling Victoria, but no one answered. One call after another, none got through. From trying to stay calm, I became increasingly anxious, pacing back and forth. I should never have trusted Victoria's ridiculous plan. Sometimes I thought maybe she was secretly studying ways to fight the system, but a few days later, this hope was shattered. Before boarding his flight, Ethan called me secretly. "Sebastian, I'm about to board the plane." "No, you can't. Ethan, find a way to stay. Theirs." He interrupted. "I know all that. Now listen calmly." He paused, then said, "I just got news. Victoria had a car accident just now." "What did you say?" My mind went blank, my ears buzzing. Victoria drove into Yanjing. She was just rescued and sent to the hospital. I'll send you the address. Without thinking, I ran out of the house. "Damn you, Victoria. Is this your plan? You always risk your life." Teeth clenched, a cold wind from running dried my tears like ice blades cutting my cheeks. When I reached the hospital, the surgery was over. A man who looked like a secretary approached and, after a long silence, said, "My condolences." It felt like a hammer struck me, numbing all my senses. He handed me a document saying, "Mr. Sebastian, Miss Liu left a will. All her assets are yours. Just sign here. Also, she left you a big orange cat saying you could take care of it." I couldn't hold back anymore and shouted, "Are you crazy? Who wants to take care of her cat? I need to see her." Pushing past the blocking arms, I rushed into the ward. Victoria lay there, her face bloodless, her body cold. The eyes that once deceived me were now closed, never to open again. Tears blurred my vision. "Vicky, get up. You promised to be my cat forever, and you give me a cat?" I shook her lifeless body desperately. Suddenly, I looked up, my gaze fixed on the air. The comments flew by saying, "I can't take it. My eyes are tearing up. My ship." Another comment said, "The system detected the heroine's non-existence. The countdown to disengage has begun. This chat is ending." Wait, does this mean the heroine and the supporting character can break free from the system? Theoretically, yes, but without the heroine, why can't they be together? Another comment said, "Someone just hacked the system and added an ad watching revival system. I'm willing to watch for 10 minutes. I'll watch for 60 if it revives my ship. It's too tragic. Me too, 10 minutes. I'll watch for 15 minutes. Countless numbers scrolled in the air. I looked at the non-existent screen. Warmth from these people across time and space reached me. I smiled through tears, saying, "Thank you, everyone. You've helped us find ourselves. Thank you, no matter where you're from." The comments said, "Wow, the supporting character can see us. No wonder the plot deviated completely. Seeing him cry makes me want to cry too. You must be with the heroine. This is so touching. Don't thank us, it's you who kept trying to change the plot." Countless farewells and words of gratitude flashed before my eyes, then gradually faded and disappeared. The next second, the hand I was holding trembled slightly. I looked up and met those dark, smiling eyes. "Meow meow," Victoria said with a sweet smile. "Brother, your cat is back." I hugged her tightly and scolded, "Vicky, do you know how many people watched ads for you?" She paused and asked, "What do you mean?" I replied, "That's a secret. I'll keep you guessing." She snorted and hugged me back, saying, "Everyone has secrets. I have one too." I asked, "What secret?" She replied, "It's a secret, brother." I laughed, hugging her tighter. The next second, Victoria whispered, "No matter what, thank you for finding me again. I love you, Sebastian, from a long, long time ago." Epilogue. Much later, I discovered Victoria's secret in her hidden diary. It read, "This world is strange. I love Sebastian, but I can't be with him. So I have to start over and over again. No matter what I do, I can only watch him walk away, out of reach. This is the 15th time. I'm sorry, brother. I can't bear a world without you. I long for you to discover my dark, hidden desires. Don't leave me alone in endless loneliness. Don't abandon me, making me cross into another world. Forgive me for dragging you down with me. I'll be your most obedient cat, or I'll be torn apart. Maybe God heard my call. This time he let brother find me. No one knows my inner joy. Even when thinking of him gives me a splitting headache, even when holding his hand feels like needles, even when kissing him makes my mouth say heartbreaking words. I love him. I deserve this. An idea uncontrollably appears in my mind. If I can't escape this control, what about death? I want to use death to deceive this power and gain our freedom. If brother can take one step towards me, why can't I take 99 steps towards him? I've made up my mind. Brother always asks me what my secret is. I coyly refuse to tell him. Of course, it's not really a secret. He just doesn't know that my obsession isn't with that pair of underwear, but with him. Just like he doesn't know that in the past 15 centuries, in those unspoken and unspeakable moments, I've kissed him countless times. My brother, Sebastian,